The Galactic Defense Academy had been standing for 3,000 cycles. 3,000 cycles. And in all that time, never, not once, had anyone witnessed what I was about to see. My name is Threx.
Yeah, I know.
Threx. Sounds like someone choking on their own spit, right? Well, that is what my clutch mother decided to curse me with, so here we are. I am a Vorkelian, which means I have got 4 arms, scales that shimmer like oil on water, and a natural talent for long-range combat that my species has been bragging about for millennia. We invented precision shooting. We wrote the manual. We trained every species in this sector how to hold a weapon properly, or so I thought. The morning this human showed up at the academy, I was lounging in the combat prep hall with my squad mates. The hulking Gregorian with more muscles than brain cells was polishing his plasma rifle for the 3rd time that hour. Vesa, our resident tech genius from the silicon-based Corsi collective, was tinkering with her targeting visor, making these annoying clicking sounds that made my head frills twitch. And then she walked in. She, the human. Female designation, apparently. Though honestly, telling human genders apart was like trying to count stars in a nebula. They all looked the same to me. Squishy. Pink. Weirdly symmetrical. This one had dark hair pulled back tight, skin the color of sun-baked earth, and eyes that were green. Brown. They seemed to change when the light hit them differently. But that was not what made everyone stop and stare. It was what she was carrying. By the 7 suns, Ryloth breathed, his weapon clattering to the floor. What in the name of the void is that? The human was lugging, and I mean seriously dragging, this contraption. It looked like someone had taken a standard kinetic rifle, strapped it to an ancient projectile weapon, added a scope the size of my head, attached some kind of stabilizing rig, and then said, "You know what? This needs more weight." It was absurd. Ridiculous. Comically oversized. Vesa's optical sensors whirred as she zoomed in. Is that a chemically propelled ballistic weapon? Those have been obsolete for 600 cycles? Apparently someone forgot to tell the human, I muttered, unable to look away from the train wreck walking toward the registration desk. The Academy's quartermaster, a perpetually irritated Felixian named Kira, looked up from his datapad and his whiskers literally stood on end. "What?" he said slowly, each word dripping with barely controlled fury. "Is that abomination you are carrying, recruit?" The human set her rifle, no, her monstrosity, down on the counter with a heavy thunk that echoed through the hall. She smiled, actually smiled, like she was not carrying a museum piece into the most advanced military training facility in 3 sectors. "My rifle, sir," she said. Her voice was light, almost musical. The universal translator gave it this weird lilt that made everything sound like she was barely containing laughter. "Standard issue where I come from." "Standard issue," Kor repeated flatly. His tail was doing that thing where it puffed up to twice its normal size. Not a good sign. That is a chemical propellant weapon. We use plasma here. Particle beams. Energy-based projectiles that travel at significant fractions of light speed. Not bullets, the human offered helpfully. Not ancient chunks of metal propelled by controlled explosions like some kind of savage. Korvac's voice had risen to a screech that probably shattered glass in the next room. The human's smile never wavered. "With respect, sir, these ancient chunks of metal have a few advantages. No energy signature. No heat bloom. Completely silent with the right suppressor. And when you absolutely positively need to put a hole in something from 3 kilometers away, sometimes old-fashioned physics beats fancy plasma." The hall had gone completely silent. Every species, every recruit, every instructor within earshot was staring. Some looked amused. Most looked appalled. A few looked like they were calculating whether they could request a transfer before this disaster of a human got them all killed. Ryloth leaned toward me. "She cannot be serious." "Oh." "She is serious," I replied, watching the human stroke her rifle like it was a beloved pet. "The question is whether she is insane or brilliant." "My credits are on insane," Vesa chimed in. Korvac stirs making a sound like a tea kettle about to explode. "Fine, fine. You want to bring your primitive toy to my academy? You go right ahead. But when you wash out in the first week because you cannot hit the broadside of a cargo hauler, Do not come crying to me. Would not dream of it, sir. The human hefted her rifle again and walked past us toward the dormitories, completely unbothered by the dozens of eyes tracking her every move. The moment she was out of earshot, the hall exploded into noise. Did you see that scope? She will never make it past basic qualifications. Humans. Why did they have to let humans into the program? I heard they are not even that good at combat. Weak. Slow. No natural weapons. I said nothing. Because something about the way that human had smiled, something about the absolute confidence in her voice, made my scales itch. And when a Vorkelian's scales itch, it means trouble is coming. Her name, we learned at the evening briefing, was Kira Volkov. The instructors made her stand up and introduce herself to the assembled recruits. 200 of us, representing 47 different species from across the galactic arm, and every single one of us was staring at her like she had grown a second head. Kira Volkov, she said, standing at attention. Human, Earth, specialized in long-range precision marksmanship. Looking forward to training with all of you. Long-range precision. Someone snorted from the back. With a chemical rifle. Sure. Kira's expression did not change, but I swear I saw something flicker in those color-changing eyes. Something cold. Something patient. The lead instructor, a grizzled Thanix veteran named Instructor Krell, stepped forward. He was missing one of his four arms, lost in the Syndicate Wars, and his carapace bore scars that told stories of battles we could only imagine. When Krell spoke, people listened. Recruit Volkov, he said, his voice like gravel grinding against metal. I see you have brought your own weapon. Yes, sir. And you believe this weapon is superior to our standard-issue plasma rifles? I believe, sir, that every weapon has its place. This one happens to be mine. A few chuckles rippled through the crowd. Krell silenced them with a look. Very well. Tomorrow morning, 0600 hours, you will report to Range 7 for qualification trials. Bring your rifle. We will see if your confidence is justified or if you are simply wasting everyone's time. Yes, sir. That night, I could not sleep. My rest cycle kept getting interrupted by the mental image of that human and her ridiculous weapon. Finally, at around 0300, I gave up and headed to the Academy's combat archives. If I was going to watch this human make a fool of herself, I might as well understand what I was looking at. The archives were empty except for the automated librarian drones. I pulled up everything we had on human military history, which was not much. Humanity had only joined the Galactic Council 15 cycles ago, and they were still considered a novelty species. Interesting, certainly. Their capacity for creative problem-solving was well documented. But combat prowess, the records were meh. Humans had no natural armor, no venom, no enhanced strength or speed. They were not telepathic. They could not breathe methane or survive hard vacuum. They were, by all measurable standards, completely average in every physical category. So why did they keep volunteering for combat roles? I dug deeper, found records of human conflicts. Something called World War II, Vietnam, Afghanistan, Syria, Iraq. Names that meant nothing to me but apparently meant everything to them. The images were disturbing. Humans fighting other humans with weapons that looked barely more advanced than sharpened sticks. The death tolls were astronomical. And then I found the sniper records. Oh, I said aloud to the empty archives. Oh no. The drones chirped curiously at me. Do you know, I said to them, because talking to drones is perfectly normal when you are having an existential crisis at 0300, that humans have confirmed kills at ranges exceeding 3,000 meters. With chemical weapons, one human designation removed from records apparently eliminated a target at 3,540 meters, using nothing but mathematics, windage calculation, and what they call a gut feeling. The drones beaked their acknowledgement. They call them snipers. I continued, scrolling through record after record. Specialists, who train for years to master a single shot, ghost and kill. One shot, one target. No mistakes. They have an entire philosophy built around it. Patience, precision, the ability to wait motionless for days just for the perfect moment to... I stopped. Looked at the images. Snipers in camouflage. Snipers in urban environments. Snipers in mountains, deserts, jungles. Always alone. Always waiting. Always patient. And Kira Volkov walked into our academy carrying a sniper rifle like she owned the place. Raloth is going to lose his credits, I muttered. At 05:55 the next morning, the entire recruit class was assembled at Range 7. Nobody wanted to miss this. Even off-duty instructors had shown up, arms crossed, expressions skeptical. Range 7 was the long-distance qualification course. Targets at 500 meters, 1,000 meters, 1,500 meters, and 2,000 meters. Standard protocol was to use the Academy's top-grade plasma rifles, which could punch through reinforced hull plating at those ranges without breaking a sweat. Kira walked onto the range at exactly 0600. She was wearing standard Academy fatigues, but she had modified them, added pads at the elbows and knees, reinforced the shoulder, created a small pouch at her hip that looked like it was full of those more bullets. She set up her rifle on the firing line with practiced ease, extended the bipod legs, checked the scope, loaded a magazine with movements so smooth they looked choreographed. The whole time she said nothing, just worked, focused, calm. Instructor Krell stepped forward. Recruit Volkov. Standard qualification requires hitting the center mass of all 4 targets in succession. You have 1 minute per target. Do you understand? Yes, sir. You may begin when ready. Kira settled behind her rifle. Her body seemed to melt into the weapon, becoming one unit. Her breathing slowed, became rhythmic. In out, in out. The 500-meter target was barely a challenge for anyone. Most recruits could hit it with their eyes closed. Kira's rifle barked, a sharp crack that sounded almost polite compared to the thunderous boom of plasma weapons. Downrange, the target registered a direct center mass hit. Lucky shot, someone muttered. The 1,000-meter target required more skill. Wind became a factor. The curvature of the planetoid we were on started affecting trajectory. Kira adjusted her scope. Waited. Her finger hovered over the trigger for what felt like an eternity. Then she fired. Direct hit. The muttering stopped. 1,500 meters. This was where most recruits using standard weapons started to struggle. The target was barely visible to the naked eye. Plasma bolts at this range were affected by atmospheric distortion, magnetic fields, a dozen different variables. It took sophisticated targeting computers to compensate. Kira had no targeting computer, just that massive scope, her eyes, and apparently some kind of mathematical superpower. She fired. The target lit up. Center mass. Perfect shot. Okay, Ryloth whispered beside me. That is actually impressive. Shut up, I hissed back. Watch. The 2,000-meter target was the killer. At this range, Academy records showed a 60% failure rate even among experienced shooters. The target was a tiny speck. The slightest error in calculation, the smallest gust of wind, even the rotation of the planetoid could throw off a shot. Kira stared through her scope for a full 30 seconds. Her finger tapped against the stock of her rifle. Some kind of nervous tick, or maybe she was counting something. Her breathing never changed. In out, in out. The crack of her rifle sounded almost apologetic in the silence. 2,000 meters downrange, the target registered a hit. Not just a hit. Dead center. Perfect. The silence that followed was so complete I could hear my own circulatory system pumping. Instructor Krell walked slowly to the firing line. Checked the target readouts. Checked them again. Pulled up the Academy's database. Compared Kira's scores to the historical records. Then he did something I had never seen him do in 4 months of brutal training. He smiled. Recruit Volkov, he said quietly, but his voice carried across the entire range. Those are the tightest groupings I have seen in 20 cycles of instruction. Kira stood up from her rifle, still at attention. Thank you, sir. Krell leaned in close. Spoke in that same quiet voice that somehow everyone could hear. Only snipers shoot like that. And just like that, everything changed. The recruits who had been mocking her rifle setup suddenly found reasons to ask her about barrel harmonics and bullet drop compensation. Vesa wanted to know how chemical propellants compared to plasma for different environmental conditions. Even Ryloth, who prided himself on his Krogorian superiority complex, admitted that maybe, just maybe, there was something to this whole bullets thing. But Kira did not gloat. Did not boast. Just went about her training with that same quiet confidence, that same patient focus. I cornered her after lunch in the equipment bay. "All right," I said. "I give up." "How? How are you doing this with that ancient weapon?" She looked up from cleaning her rifle, that small smile playing at her lips again. "You really want to know?" "Obviously. Physics," she said simply. "A bullet is not guided. It has no propulsion system after it leaves the barrel. So it follows a completely predictable path based on velocity, gravity, wind resistance, air density, temperature, the Coriolis effect. You learn the math. You learn to read the environment. You make the shot." "That sounds impossibly complicated." "It is," she agreed. "That is why it takes years to master. That is why human snipers train constantly. That is why we fail more than we succeed at first. But once you understand it, once you can read wind like a language and feel gravity like a physical presence, there is nothing more reliable than a bullet. Plasma can be disrupted. Energy weapons leave signatures. But a bullet just goes where physics tells it to go." I sat down on a nearby crate, feeling my worldview shift uncomfortably. "Your species weaponized math." "Pretty much, yeah. That is horrifying. That is humanity," Kira said, her smile widening. "We are not the strongest, not the fastest. We do not have armor or venom or telepathy. So we got really, really good at throwing things accurately. Started with rocks, moved to spears, then arrows, then bullets. And now," she patted her rifle affectionately, "now we can put a piece of metal through a target from kilometers away and the target never even knows we are there until it is too late." "And the Academy thought you were a joke," I said slowly. "They did," Kira agreed. "But here is the thing about underestimation. Threx. It is the most useful weapon in any arsenal. People see this rifle. They see a human. They make assumptions. And while they are busy assuming, I am calculating trajectories." A thought occurred to me. "You did this on purpose. The whole showing up with the primitive weapon. The big display. You wanted them to mock you." Her smile turned absolutely predatory. "Instructor Krell did not get to where he is by being stupid. He saw exactly what I was doing. That is why he gave me range 7. He wanted to see if I was for real or just another cocky recruit. And now everyone knows. I am for real." She went back to cleaning her rifle. The conversation apparently over. I left the equipment bay with my head spinning. In one morning, this human had completely upended everything I thought I knew about combat, about weapons, about assumptions. The next few weeks were a masterclass in humility. For me, for Ryloth, for pretty much everyone except Kira. She dominated every long-range exercise. While we fumbled with plasma rifles and energy weapons, she calmly calculated wind speed and bullet drop, adjusted for temperature and humidity, and put rounds exactly where she wanted them. 500 meters. 1,000. 2,000. One memorable afternoon, Instructor Krell set up a target at 3,000 meters just to see if she could do it. She could. But here is what really got under my scales. Kira was not just good at shooting. She was good at everything. Hand-to-hand combat? She moved like water, using leverage and momentum instead of strength. Tactical plan. She thought 3 steps ahead while the rest of us were still processing step 1. Survival training. She made shelters from nothing and found food sources in environments that should have been barren. "Humans are terrifying," Vesser announced one evening after Kira had somehow won a navigation exercise using nothing but shadows and a stick. "Seriously, why did nobody warn us?" "Because nobody took them seriously," I replied, watching Kira laugh with a group of recruits who had spent the first week mocking her. "They are new to the galactic stage. Small, weak-looking, no obvious advantages. So we all just assumed. Assumption is the death of intelligence." Rewrote quoted from the Academy handbook. He was eating his words now, literally. He had bet a week's meal credits that Kira would not make it past the first month. She was currently top of our class. "You know what the worst part is?" I said. "What?" "She is just one human, one. And if one human with a rifle from 600 cycles ago can do this, what happens when humanity really gets going? When they have access to our technology, our weapons, our training?" I gestured at Kira, who was now demonstrating proper scope adjustment to 3 fascinated Quarzi recruits. What happens when you give a species that weaponized mathematics access to particle beams and quantum targeting? The 3 of us sat in silence, contemplating that particular nightmare scenario. We are doomed, Vesa said finally. Probably, I agreed. Definitely, Rayloth added. But here is the thing. Despite being terrified, despite having our egos thoroughly demolished, despite watching this human casually rewrite everything we thought we knew about combat, I would not have traded my position for anything. Because Kira Volkov was teaching us something more valuable than shooting. She was teaching us that the most dangerous opponent is not the one with the biggest gun or the fanciest technology. It is the one you underestimate. And humanity? Humanity was counting on being underestimated. The Academy's final evaluation was 3 months away when everything went sideways. And by sideways I mean completely, catastrophically, universe-ending sideways. It started with an announcement at morning formation. Instructor Krell stood on the platform, his scarred carapace gleaming under the artificial lights, and dropped a bomb that made everyone's breakfast threaten to make a reappearance. "Attention, recruits," he said, voice cutting through the morning chatter like Kira's bullets through targets. "The Galactic Defense Council has decided to accelerate your training timeline. In 2 weeks you will face the Crucible." The entire formation went dead silent. The Crucible. The final test. The nightmare that washed out 60% of recruits who attempted it. A week-long survival and combat scenario in actual hostile territory with live ammunition, real enemies, and absolutely zero room for error. Most academies waited until recruits had a full year of training before throwing them into that particular meat grinder. We had been here for 3 months. "This is insane," Ryleth hissed beside me. His forearms were trembling. "We are not ready. Nobody is ready. There is an escalating situation in the outer territories," Krell continued, ignoring the rising panic in the ranks. "The Council needs trained personnel immediately. You will be split into squads of 10. Each squad will be inserted into a contested zone on the moon Talaxis 4. Your objective is simple. Survive for 7 days, gather intelligence on enemy positions, and extract at the designated coordinates. Failure means recycling back to basic training. Or death. Whichever comes first." "Fantastic," Vesa muttered. "Just fantastic. I signed up to be a technician, not a combat operative." "Silent." Krell's voice cracked like a whip. "Squad assignments will be posted in 1 hour. Dismissed." The formation dissolved into chaos. Everyone scrambling, panicking, forming desperate alliances with anyone they thought might keep them alive. The Crucible had a reputation. People did not just fail it. They broke against it like eaves against rocks. I found Kira in the armory, calmly loading magazines for her rifle. Because of course she was calm, probably ran survival scenarios in her sleep just for fun. "You heard?" I asked. "I heard." She did not look up from her work. Each bullet slid into place with a precise click. 2 weeks. Talaxis 4. Should be interesting. Interesting, I repeated flatly. "Kira, people die in the Crucible. Actually die. This is not a training exercise. The enemies are real. The bullets are real. The very real possibility of bleeding out in some crater while nobody can reach you is extremely horrifyingly real." She finally looked up. Those color-shifting eyes were completely steady. "Frex, I appreciate the concern. Really. But where I come from, we have a saying. Pressure makes diamonds. Where I come from, pressure makes paste. Then I guess we will find out which one you are." She went back to loading magazines. "Besides, I have been preparing for this my entire life. Every human sniper has. We train for the worst-case scenario. Then we train for something worse than that. Then we train for what happens when worse goes completely to hell and takes the scenic route through nightmare territory." I sat down heavily on an ammunition crate. "Your species has issues. Many, many issues," she agreed cheerfully. "But survival instincts? Those we have got down to an art form. You know what the human survival rate is on hostile worlds? I am afraid to ask. 93%. Highest in the known galaxy. Because when you are a species with no natural weapons, no armor, no built-in advantages, You learn to adapt or you die. And humans really, really hate dying. Is that supposed to be comforting? Little bit. Yeah. The squad assignments went up exactly 1 hour later and the universe decided it had not finished messing with us yet. Squad 7. 10 recruits. Leader, Instructor Krell himself. Because apparently the Academy wanted to make sure we had adult supervision while we got ourselves killed. And the roster: Threx, Vesa, Ryloth, Kira, 3 Felixians who specialized in close combat, 2 Corsi engineers, and 1 absolutely terrified Glimmerwing named Pip, who had signed up for communications training and was now seriously regretting every life choice that led to this moment. Well, Ryloth said, staring at the list. At least we have the human. At least we have the human, I echoed, because at this point Kira was basically our only hope of survival. The next 2 weeks were pure, concentrated misery. Krell worked us until our various appendages fell off, then made us pick them up and keep going. Survival training, combat drills, live fire exercises, evasion tactics, wilderness medicine, how to purify water from sources that wanted to kill you, how to identify edible plants versus plants that would make your internal organs dissolve. Kira thrived. While the rest of us collapsed into our bunks each night, she stayed up studying topographical maps of Talaxis 4, memorizing terrain features, calculating sight lines and kill zones. Does she ever sleep? Pip chirped one night, watching Kira mark up a map with trajectory calculations. I think she might be part machine, Vesa replied. No organic being should have that much focus. I can hear you, Kira called, without looking up. And yes, I sleep. 4 hours a night. REM cycles optimized for memory consolidation. Very efficient. See? The Sa gestured with 3 of her crystalline appendages. Machine. The day before deployment, Krell gathered our squad in a briefing room that smelled like old terror and fresh paint. Listen closely, he said, pulling up a holographic projection of Talaxis 4. This moon is contested territory. The Syndicate has forward operating bases scattered across the northern hemisphere. Your insertion point is here. He highlighted a rocky plateau. Extraction point is here, 100 kilometers south. Between those 2 points are mountains, canyons, hostile wildlife, possible Syndicate patrols, and approximately 7 different types of environmental hazards that want to kill you. Why are we doing this again? Pip asked, in a very small voice. Because the Council needs updated intelligence on Syndicate positions. Because satellites can only tell us so much. And because if you cannot survive this, you cannot survive actual deployment. Krell's eyes swept over all of us. This is not designed to be fair. This is designed to push you past your limits. Some of you will fail. Some of you might die. But those who succeed, you will be ready for anything the galaxy throws at you. Motivational, I muttered. Not trying to motivate you, Krell replied. Trying to keep you alive. Now, rules of engagement. You are authorized to use lethal force if compromised. Your primary objective is intelligence gathering. Secondary objective is survival. Tertiary objective is squad cohesion. In that order. Questions? Kira raised her hand. Rules of engagement for long-range observation? If you can see them and they cannot see you, observe and report. If they spot you, disengage and evade. If evasion fails, neutralize the threat. Understood. Krell looked at her for a long moment. Recruit Volkov. I am assigning you as squad marksman. Your job is overwatch. You keep us safe from threats we cannot see. Can you do that? Yes, sir. Good. Because I have read your file. All of it. The parts that were not redacted. I know what you did before coming here. He paused. I know why you came here. The room went very quiet. Kira's expression did not change, but something flickered behind those eyes. Something old. Something that had seen things the rest of us could not imagine. Then you know I will not let this squad down, she said simply. I know you will try. That will have to be enough. Krell shut down the hologram. Get some rest. Tomorrow we see what you are really made of. The dropship ride to Talaxis 4 took 6 hours and every minute was agony. Ip spent the entire time making this high-pitched keening noise that apparently was how Glimmerwings expressed existential dread. The Felixians, twins named Rix, Vix, and Nix, because their parents apparently hated them, kept sharpening their claws on the hull plating. Vesa ran system diagnostics on her equipment approximately 400 times. Kira actually slept. Head back, arms crossed, rifle held like a security blanket. Completely at peace, while the rest of us slowly lost our minds. How? Ryloth demanded, gesturing at her with all four arms. How is she doing that? Pre-combat rest protocol, I said, remembering something from the human military files. Soldiers learn to sleep anywhere, anytime, because you never know when you will get another chance. It is a survival skill. Everything with them is a survival skill, Vesa grumbled. The dropship hit atmosphere and immediately the ride got rougher. Talaxis 4 had a charming habit of generating localized gravity anomalies that played hell with inertial dampeners. We bounced around the cabin like dice in a cup while Kira continued to sleep peacefully. Then the pilot's voice crackled over the intercom. 30 seconds to insertion. Brace for hard landing. Kira's eyes snapped open, instantly alert. No grogginess. No confusion. Just immediately, perfectly aware. Show off, I muttered. She grinned at me. Always. The dropship hit the plateau with a bone-jarring thud. The rear ramp dropped and frigid air blasted into the cabin. Talaxis 4's atmosphere was technically breathable but smelled like sulfur and regret. Go, 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 Kekrell shouted. And we poured out of the dropship like our lives depended on it, because they did. The plateau was a nightmare landscape of jagged rocks and swirling mist. Visibility was maybe 50 meters. Temperature was somewhere between freezing and absolutely freezing. The dropship's engines screamed as it lifted off, leaving us alone in the wilderness. Squad up, Krell ordered. Weapons check, comms check. Volkov, I need a high position for observation. Kira was already moving, scrambling up the nearest rock formation, with the agility of something that definitely should not be carrying a 20-kilo rifle. She reached a vantage point, settled in, and started scanning the area through her scope. Perimeter clear, she called down. No heat signatures. No movement. We are alone. For now, Krell said grimly. Pip, establish comms with command. Everyone else, standard patrol formation. We move south. Stay alert. Stay alive. The first day was actually manageable. We covered 20 kilometers through terrain that wanted to kill us, but nothing actually tried. Kira ranged ahead, scouting from elevated positions, while the rest of us slogged through valleys and canyons. Twice she spotted syndicate patrols before they spotted us, giving us time to hide and wait them out. By nightfall, we had reached a cave system that Vesa's scanners confirmed was structurally sound. We set up camp, rotating watch shifts, trying to stay warm in temperatures that made my scales ache. I took second watch with Kira. She was positioned at the cave entrance, rifle trained on the approach path, eyes constantly moving. You were a sniper before this, I said quietly. Not a question. 3 years, she confirmed. Conflict zones on Earth, places where diplomacy failed and bullets became the language of negotiation. Did what I had to do, saw what I had to see. And then I decided I wanted something different. So you joined the Galactic Defense Academy. So I joined the academy. She agreed. Figured if I was going to shoot things, might as well shoot things that threaten entire planets instead of just one country's interests. Noble, practical, she corrected. I am good at this. Really good. Seems wasteful not to use the skill where it matters most. A sound echoed across the valley. Distant, mechanical. Kira's rifle shifted fractionally. Patrol, she whispered. 600 meters. Moving parallel to our position. 4 hostiles. Heavy weapons. They have not spotted us. Should we alert Krell? Already did. She tapped the subdermal comms implant behind her ear. He is waking the others. Quiet now. We sat in absolute silence while the patrol passed. 4 syndicate soldiers, heavily armed, moving through the darkness with military precision. If Kira had not spotted them, if we had been just slightly less careful, they would have walked right into us. Or we would have walked right into them. Either way, bad news. After they passed, Kira exhaled slowly. That was close, too close. I agreed. How did you see them at that distance in the dark? Thermal scope. Heat signatures show up clear as day. Plus, they were using active scanners. Rookie mistake. Active scans give away your position to anyone paying attention, and you are always paying attention. Survival skill, she said with that small smile. Everything is a survival skill. Day 2 brought worse terrain and actual combat. We were crossing a narrow canyon when Vessa's scanner started screaming warnings. Ambush! Syndicate forces on both sides of the canyon, weapons hot, ready to turn us into very dead statistics. Contact! Krelar roared. Take cover! Energy blasts tore through the air. Reloth took a hit to his shoulder plating and went down hard. The Phylexians scattered, claws out, looking for targets. Pippi was screaming. Everything was chaos and noise and death happening very fast. And then Kira's rifle spoke. Once, twice, 3 times, 4. 4 shots. 4 targets. 4 syndicate soldiers dropping before they even realized they were being targeted. 700 meters away, through obscuring mist. In active combat condition, sniper, someone on the enemy side shouted. They have a sniper. Fall back. Negative, another voice replied. Kill them all. Bad choice. Kira shifted position, moving to a different vantage point with smooth efficiency. Her rifle cracked again. 5, 6, 7. Each shot precise. Each shot lethal. She was not shooting to wound. She was not shooting to suppress. She was eliminating threats with surgical precision. Vessa, she called. Rangefinder. I need exact distances. On it. Vessa's scanners fed data directly to Kira's scope interface. Thrax, Ryloth. Suppressing fire, keep them pinned. Rix, Vix, Nix. Flank left on my mark. Wait. When did Kira start giving orders? But it worked. We followed her commands because in the middle of a firefight you listen to the person who sounds like they know what they are doing. The Phylexians circled around, caught the enemy by surprise from the side. Ryloth and I kept them busy from the front. And Kira systematically dismantled their command structure from positions they could not even see her from. The firefight lasted maybe 3 minutes, felt like 3 hours. When it was over, 12 syndicate soldiers were down and we had sustained only minor injuries. Krell looked at Kira with something approaching awe. Where did you learn to coordinate fire like that? Survival skill, she replied. Already reloading. Had to call in support teams during extractions. You learn to think tactically or you die badly. Noted. Can you walk point? I want your eyes up front. Yes, sir. From that moment the dynamic shifted. Kira was not just our marksman. She was our early warning system. Our tactical coordinator. The reason we kept breathing when everything tried to stop us from breathing. Day 3 she spotted a minefield before Pip walked into it. Day 4 she identified a syndicate observation post. And we captured 3 intelligence officers with 0 casualties. Day 5 she guided us through a blizzard, using nothing but terrain memory and an internal compass that should not exist. By day 6, the squad followed her orders as naturally as breathing. Even Krell deferred to her judgment on tactical matters. Because Kira had proven something fundamental. She was not just good at shooting, she was good at keeping people alive. The final day, extraction day, almost killed us anyway. Because the universe has a sense of humor, and that sense of humor is cruel. We reached the extraction point at dawn. A flat clearing surrounded by rocky hills. Perfect landing zone for a dropship. Also perfect killing zone if things went wrong. Pip, signal for extraction, Krell ordered. Pip activated the beacon. Signal sent. Dropship ETA 30 minutes. Defensive positions. Volkov, high ground. Kira was already climbing. Rifle slung across her back, moving like gravity was optional. She reached a rocky outcrop overlooking the clearing and settled in. Overwatch established. Scan. We waited. 29 minutes. 28. 27. Movement. Kira's voice crackled over comms. Very calm. Very controlled. Multiple hostiles. Syndicate heavy assault team. Vote estimate 40 soldiers. Combat walkers. Artillery support. They know we are here. My scales went cold. 40 soldiers. Against 10 recruits and 1 instructor. Can we evade? Krell asked. Negative. They have the approach routes covered. Fighting retreat would expose us to artillery. We hold this position, or we die trying. Krell's mandibles clicked together. thinking, calculating, coming to the same conclusion we all reached. Then we hold. Standard defensive formation. Prepare for contact. Sir, Kira said. Permission to engage at range? How many can you take? Enough to even the odds. But I need complete fire discipline from the squad. No shooting until I thin them out. If they know where the main force is, they will artillery strike us into paste. Granted. Everyone hold fire. Let the sniper work. What followed was the most terrifying and impressive display of marksmanship I have ever witnessed. Kira lay on that rock, completely still, rifle trained downrange, watching, waiting, breathing. Then she started shooting. The syndicate force was advancing in tactical formation. Professional, careful, expecting resistance. They did not expect a ghost. Kira's first shot dropped their forward scout. Her second took out a communications officer. Third, fourth, fifth, targeting command elements with ruthless efficiency. The enemy did not even know where the shots were coming from. They just saw their people dropping and panicked. Sniper! Sniper! Location unknown. They scattered, looking for cover, and Kira punished every mistake. Someone stood up too quickly. Dead. Someone moved to an exposed position. Dead. Someone tried to set up heavy weapons. Very dead. 26 hostiles remaining, she reported, voice steady as stone. They are trying to flank. Adjusting position. She shifted, moved to a different outcrop, resumed fire. The syndicate was in complete disarray. They thought they were hunting recruits. Instead, they were being systematically eliminated by someone who made war look like mathematics. 15 hostiles. They are calling for artillery support. Pip, how long on that dropship? 5 minutes. Not enough time. Squad, prepare for artillery strike. Find hard cover now. We scrambled for the deepest rocks we could find. Seconds later, the world exploded. Artillery shells rained down, turning the clearing into a hellscape of fire and shrapnel. The ground shook. My ears rang. Pretty sure I lost one of my secondary scales to flying debris. When the barrage stopped, I peeked out from cover. The clearing was cratered, smoking. Destroy. Sound off. Krell shouted. One by one we confirmed we were alive, battered, terrified, but alive. Kira? Silence. Volkov. Respond. More silence. My heart sank. No. No. Not like this. Then her voice came through, crackling with interference. Still here. Position compromised. Moving to secondary vantage. 8 hostiles closing on your position. Engaging. Her rifle cracked 3 times in quick succession. 5 hostiles. They are trying to. A massive explosion cut off her transmission. Kira, I was moving before I realized it, scrambling toward her last known position. Raloth grabbed me with 2 arms. Wait for the dropship. She is out there alone. She is a sniper. Being alone is literally her job. The dropship roared into view, weapons blazing, laying down suppressing fire. It touched down and the rear ramp dropped. Everyone on board, Krell ordered. Now, not without Volkov. She can take care of herself. Move. I hesitated, every instinct screaming at me to find her, to help. Then I saw movement on the ridgeline. A figure running rifle in hand. Kira, alive. She was sliding down the rocky slope, using momentum and apparently zero concern for personal safety to reach the clearing. Behind her, 3 syndicate soldiers appeared. Weapons raised, taking aim. Kira did not even slow down. She spun, dropped to one knee, fired from the hip. 3 shots, 3 targets, all down. Then she was up and running again. She hit the dropship ramp at full speed, stumbled, and Rylith caught her with all 4 arms. Go! Krell roared at the pilot. Get us out of here. The dropship lifted off just as more artillery shells turned our former position into a new crater. We gained altitude, cleared the combat zone, and suddenly we were safe. Flying toward the academy. Mission complete. Kira was breathing hard, covered in rock dust and what might have been blood but might have been oil. Her rifle was dented. Her scope was cracked. She looked absolutely exhausted, and she was grinning. That, she said between breaths, was fun. Fun, I repeated. We nearly died, multiple times. You were calling artillery strikes on your own position. That was your idea of fun. Little bit, yeah. She wiped dust from her eyes. Did we get everyone out? Everyone, Krell confirmed. 0 casualties. Full intelligence gathered. Mission success. Thanks to you, Recruit Volkov. She shook her head. Thanks to the squad, I just pointed the rifle. You all did the hard part. You eliminated 34 hostiles, Vesa said, checking her combat recorder. 34. In less than 20 minutes. That is not just pointing a rifle. That is survival skill, Kira finished. Just another survival skill. The dropship docked at the academy 6 hours later. We stumbled out, exhausted, traumatized, but alive. Other squads were arriving too. Some looked better than us. Some looked worse. Some had empty seats where recruits used to be. The Crucible had claimed its victims, but Squad 7 walked off that dropship intact. Whole, victorious, and every instructor, every recruit, every species represented at that academy watched Kira Volkov walk past carrying her battered, ancient, supposedly obsolete rifle and knew exactly what they were seeing. They were seeing the future. A future where humanity, with all their weird biology and primitive weapons and absolutely terrifying survival skills, was going to change everything. Instructor Krell pulled me aside as we headed to debrief. Your human friend, she is special. I know. No, you do not. He fixed me with that scarred, war-weary gaze. I have seen a lot of soldiers in my career, trained thousands, watched hundreds die. And I can count on one claw the number who had what she has. That calm under fire, that tactical instinct, that absolute certainty in her own abilities. What is she? She is what humans become when they decide to be good at something, Krell said quietly. And now that they are joining the galactic stage, now that they have access to resources and technology and training, we are not ready for what they will become. He was right. We were not ready. 3 months later, graduation day arrived. Out of 200 recruits who started, 143 remained. Squad 7 graduated with top honors. Kira received the Marksman Excellence Award, the Tactical Innovation Medal, the Combat Leadership Commendation. She accepted them with the same quiet grace she did everything else. At the graduation ceremony, the Academy Commandant gave a speech about tradition, honor, and service. It was boring, long, the usual stuff. But at the end he said something that made everyone sit up and pay attention. This cycle, we witnessed something unprecedented. A recruit who challenged our assumptions, who brought ancient weapons into a modern battlefield and proved that innovation comes from the most unexpected sources, who showed us that the greatest weapon is not the most advanced technology, but the mind that wields it. Recruit Kira Volkov, please approach the podium. Kira walked up, rifleless for once in her dress uniform. Recruit Volkov, in recognition of your exceptional service, your tactical expertise, and your unwavering commitment to your squad's survival, I am pleased to offer you immediate acceptance into the Galactic Defense Special Operations Program. Should you accept, you will be training with the best of the best across all species for the most dangerous missions the Council faces. Kira did not hesitate. I accept, sir. Outstanding. Report to Special Operations Command next cycle. Dismissed. She returned to her seat next to me. I leaned over. Special Operations. That is the elite, the absolute best. I know. You are going to do amazing things. I know that too. And she would. Because Kira Volkov, like all humans, had figured out the ultimate survival skill. Never stop adapting. The Academy threw a celebration that night. Music, food, various species getting drunk on various intoxicants. Kira found me on a balcony overlooking the training grounds where this whole thing started. Thinking about Range 7, she asked. Thinking about how everyone mocked you, how they laughed at your rifle, how they thought you were a joke. And now they tell stories about you, about the human who outshot everyone with a weapon 600 cycles old, about the sniper who saved her entire squad in the Crucible, about Kira Volkov, who proved that humans belong here. She smiled, that patient, knowing smile. Want to know a secret? Always. That rifle, not actually 600 cycles old. It is a custom build, modern alloys, computer-aided manufacturing, precision engineered to tolerances that make your plasma rifles look sloppy. I just made it look ancient because I knew what everyone would think. I stared at her. You lied. I performed psychological warfare. There is a difference. Everyone saw an old weapon and assumed old technology. Nobody looked close enough to see the carbon fiber stock or the micro-adjustable trigger or the smart scope hidden inside the antique housing. They saw what they expected to see, and while they were busy underestimating me, I was preparing to exceed every expectation they had. That is diabolical. That is human, she corrected. We have been doing this for thousands of years, looking weak, acting harmless, then surprising everyone when it matters. It is how we survived when everything on our planet wanted to eat us, and it is how we will thrive out here among the stars. I thought about that, about humanity, about what they represented, about what they would become. The galaxy is not ready for you, I said. I know, Kira looked up at the stars, countless and beautiful. But ready or not, here we come. And somewhere out there, in the vast darkness between worlds, I suspected the universe just shivered, because humans had arrived. And they brought their rifles.